In March, the national teams of Oceania will meet in Qatar to determine the participant in the World Cup playoffs. Tahiti, the most famous part of French Polynesia, will also be there. In this video, we talk about football on the island in the South Pacific. The next chapter of our football world tour is upon us. We return to Oceania, this time turning our guests to Tahiti. The island, with a population of just over 160,000, is part of French Polynesia and offers the highest standard of living in the region. Politically, it belongs to France, but not to the territory of the EU. Of course, football also plays a major role, and the national team has even managed to participate in a FIFA Confederations Cup. You will find out later in the video how this came about and how the team did, because first we take a leap back in time. We land in 1909, when football was introduced to Tahiti by Royal Navy sailors. It took until 1923 before the first clubs were formed on the island. From 1932 onwards, clubs joined together to form an association, a predecessor of today's Tahiti Football Association. The first leagues existed from 1948, but it was not until the new association in 1969, French Polynesia Football League, founded under the leadership of Napoleon Spitz, that there are good records. Today it runs under the name Tahiti Ligue 1, and the champions are eligible to play in the OFC Champions League. With 21 titles, AS Central Sport is the record champion by a wide margin, but the great dominance of the past no longer exists. Today there are a number of teams vying for the title, and they keep taking turns. Our insider today has also worn the jersey of Central Sport and knows the league and its level very well. Goalkeeper Michael Roche, now 39, has experienced the greatest highlights of his country's football history between the posts. He gained experience in France for several years, played for Monaco, and was a great support for the national team. He was also in the squad that won the OFC Nations Cup in 2012 and took part in the Confederations Cup in Brazil in 2013. He now tells us about the domestic league.
No, it's totally amateur. So few teams give a bit money to players, but it's really, we don't talk much about money. It's really low. There's low business in football here. It's really like years before in many countries, it's totally amateur. There's not much money. So if you want to have a job like a football player, you don't have to come over here.
As mentioned earlier, the champion gets a ticket to the OFC Champions League. In the last 2 years, this was cancelled because of COVID. But here, too, it is worth taking a look at history. Although the title has never gone to French Polynesia, teams have reached the final twice. In 2006, AS Pirée made it to the final against Auckland City, then called the OFC Club Championship, but lost 1-3. 6 years later, in 2012, it was AS Tefana who also lost to Auckland City. The final even took place in the Stade Louis Ganivet in Tahiti. But it is not only in Oceania that teams from Tahiti are on the road. The close ties with France ensure that a team also takes part in the French Cup every year. The winner of the Coupe de Polynésie secures a ticket to the 7th round of the Coupe de France. This is considered the biggest tournament in the world, with 8,000 participating teams. Representatives from overseas territories join them in the 7th round. If you're interested in such unusual cup competitions and exciting stories about them, write it to me in the comments and I can create a video about it. Also, feel free to share this video on all your social media channels. Tahitian teams then travel up to 16,000 kilometers for a cup match. A good comparison to see where you stand performance-wise. This year it was AS Venus who lost 2-0 to a 4th division team. The team traveled 2 weeks before to get used to the climate in the different time zone. The last time a Tahitian team made it past the 7th round was in the 2008-2009 season. Then AS Tefana beat SR Colmar on penalties. In the next round, however, they were beaten in extra time. Michael has also made a few appearances in the French Cup.
I played 3 times the French Cup and we lost all the time. But with short score, last time I played, we lost only 1-0.
Let's move on to the national team, whose first international match was in 1952. A year later, the national team went on a boat trip and played international matches against Fiji, Vanuatu and New Caledonia. In 1971, they joined the French Football Federation, which is where the team's participation in the Coupe de France comes from. In 1989, the French Polynesian Football League became the Tahitian Football Federation. This still organizes football on the island. Just 1 year later, they became members of the OFC and FIFA and were able to participate in official tournaments. Their first World Cup qualification was for the 1994 World Cup in the USA, but they failed to make it in a group with Australia. To date, the team has failed to make it to the crucial playoffs, with the next opportunity coming at the World Cup qualifying tournament in Qatar in March. In the Continental Championship, the OFC Nations Cup, on the other hand, Tahiti have already enjoyed great success. In 2012, the tournament was held in the Solomon Islands, where they beat New Caledonia 1-0 in the final to take the crown. The decisive goal was scored by Stevie Chong Hue. It was the biggest success for the national team, and Mikael was there too.
We had a group that was strong at that time. We were feeling like we could beat everybody in that competition. We were not the best, as I always say. We were not the best, but we were the strongest.
The tournament win secured a ticket to the 2013 FIFA Confederations Cup, where they played in a group with Spain, Uruguay and Nigeria. They failed to pick up any points and suffered heavy defeats, but their goal in a 6-1 defeat to Nigeria was a great moment in the country's history. Who can claim to be able to first put a traditional chain around Fernando Torres' neck and then not have to pick up a penalty from El Nino on net? Mikael can.
Brazil is the country of football. It's the football nation, and Maracana is the church. It's the church of the football. So we were there, us, little country, little players, amateur. It was just totally incredible.
Unfortunately, since those great successes, things have not been pointing upwards. Other OFC nations have overtaken Tahiti, and Mikael hopes there will soon be structural changes that will get football back on track. The next few years will tell. We can definitely look forward to it. The great pictures of Tahiti's 2013 fans will be remembered, and it was great fun to introduce you to football in the country. Many thanks to Mikael as well. Did you remember the Confederations Cup with Tahiti? Write it down in the comments and also tell me which country should be featured next. I would be very happy if you subscribe to my channel to follow the journey through the football world. Also feel free to share this video so that more people get to see it. See you soon.